Okay. This is the story of me and my pretty little friends, in a lively little village where bread was a luxury and honey was a rare treat. We kids lived for the moments when our fathers were in a good mood. On those special days, they would mix honey into our porridge, transforming our ordinary meal into a sweet delight. We'd then scramble to do the dishes, hoping to lick the last traces of honey from the bowls. My name is SowaH. This is one of my stories. Please subscribe to Adventures of SowaH to enjoy captivating stories about me and the beauty of Africa. One hot afternoon, on our way home from school, Danso, the boldest of our group, couldn't wait to share his discovery. His father had taken him to the farm that morning, and there, hidden deep in the bush, Danso had found a treasure, a massive hive of wild bees nestled in the crack of a fallen tree. The hive buzzed with the promise of sweet honey, but it was guarded by an army of bees, ready to sting any fool who dared to get too close. Danso, always the adventurous one, had eagerly absorbed every word when his father explained how the village elders collected honey without getting stung. So secret? What was the secret again? Approach the hive with a green leaf in your mouth and murmur a few magic words. Then, set a bundle of tinder on fire to create smoke. The bees, confused by the smoke, would be less likely to sting if you stood perfectly still. Slowly, ever so carefully, you could reach into the hive and extract the honeycomb. Naturally, we were all in. Who could resist the allure of honey, especially when we had a foolproof plan? We decided to keep our mission a secret from our mothers and sisters. They would just ruin the fun. That evening, we wolfed down our dinners, barely able to contain our excitement. My sister noticed my unusual behavior and commented to our mother, but I just shrugged it off with a smug smile, convinced that we were about to pull off the heist of the century. Before we continue further, please click the subscribe button below for Adventures of SowaH. Have you done that? Okay. Let's continue. As soon as the sun dipped below the horizon, Danso gave a sharp whistle. It was time. We met outside, each of us carrying a school bag and a cutlass, dressed in nothing but pants and sleeveless vests. The cool night air did little to calm our racing hearts. The path to the hive was long and dark, but the thought of the sweet honey waiting for us kept our spirits high. We marched deeper into the bush, repeating Danso's instructions like a mantra: don't move, don't lick the honey, don't drop the leaf, and murmur the magic words. Soon, we'll get the honey, and we would never give the girls in our school. We would never give all those other bully boys who forced us to do their schoolwork. The further we went, the louder the humming of the bees grew. My heart pounded, but I refused to let fear show on my face. After what felt like hours, we finally reached the spot. Danso signaled for silence. There it was, a massive fallen tree with a large crack in its trunk, filled with a black, buzzing mass of bees. The hive was alive, the bees piling on top of one another, guarding their golden treasure. Danso moved swiftly, lighting the tinder at the end of his stick. The fire crackled, sending smoke billowing towards the hive. The bees buzzed louder, swirling around us like a living cloud, but we stood perfectly still, just as we had been taught. My whole body was tense, every muscle ready to bolt, but I stayed rooted to the spot. Slowly, Danso reached into the crack of the tree. His movements were deliberate, almost reverent. After what felt like an eternity, he pulled out a large, dark brown slice of honeycomb. Success! The sweet prize was within our grasp. But just as quickly as triumph filled our hearts, disaster struck. Danso suddenly dropped his stick and shoved past me in a blind panic. Kofi, who had been holding his breath, let out a cry, and that was it. The bees snapped out of their smoky stupor and turned on us with a vengeance. The pain was immediate and fierce, like 1,000 fiery needles piercing our skin. We screamed and ran, flailing our arms wildly as the bees chased us, their stingers finding every bit of exposed flesh. I sprinted blindly through the bush, branches and thorns tearing at my clothes. My only thought was to escape the angry swarm. I burst out onto the main road, gasping for breath, my face swollen beyond recognition. My lips felt as thick as sausages, and my entire body throbbed with pain. One by one, the others stumbled out of the bush, each looking just as miserable as I felt. Our clothes were torn, our faces puffed up like balloons, and not a single drop of honey to show for our trouble. Despite our pain, we couldn't help but laugh at the sight of each other. We were a sorry bunch, indeed. Poor Kofi had the worst of it. A long thorn had embedded itself in the sole of his foot, and he whimpered with every step. We were too exhausted and sore to help, so we limped back to the village, each of us silently dreading the scolding that awaited us at home. When we finally reached my house, my sister was the first to see us. Her eyes widened in shock, and she ran inside to alert our mother. I stood there, trembling with fever and fear, knowing I was in for it. Luckily, my father wasn't home. He would have whipped me for sure. As we debated our fate, we heard an alarm coming from Kofi's house. He had fainted. I feared I might be next. It would have been better if I fainted, but instead, I was laid on a mat and covered with a blanket. The village doctor was called, but he was busy treating Kofi, so it took a while for him to arrive. When he finally did, he gave me some medicine mixed with honey. Soon after, I was sick all over the place and fell into a deep sleep. When I woke up the next morning, the swelling had miraculously vanished, and I looked like my old self again. As I got ready for school, I wondered how my friends were doing. To my relief, Danso showed up looking cheerful, and we went to check on Kofi. Apart from a bandage on his foot, he seemed fine, and we were confident that our misadventure would remain a secret. But as soon as we entered the schoolyard, we realized that our secret was out. The other students burst into laughter and started singing, "Tell us, boys, how sweet is the honey, how hard do the bees sting?" We were surrounded, taunted, and all we could do was hang our heads in shame. The day dragged on, each class filled with whispers and giggles aimed in our direction. By the time school was over, we were thoroughly embarrassed, and all we wanted was to go home and forget the whole thing. On our way back, we sat by the roadside, replaying the events of the previous day, trying to figure out what had gone wrong. Danso swore he hadn't moved or licked the honey, and the rest of us denied making any mistakes. But deep down, we knew the truth. I had dropped the green leaf when my lips trembled, and the others had probably made small errors too. Our pride had gotten the better of us, and we had paid the price. Kofi, still sore from his ordeal, joked about dreaming of going back to the hive and collecting all the honeycombs. We laughed at the absurdity of it all, the tension finally breaking. Our misadventure had turned into a cautionary tale, a story we would tell with a mixture of embarrassment and pride for years to come. And so, our wild honey adventure became a legend in the village, a tale of bravery, foolishness, and the painful consequences of overconfidence. We never did attempt to raid the hive again, but every time we tasted honey, we were reminded of that fateful night and the valuable lesson it taught us about respecting nature and bees. That's the end of our beautiful story. The mission failed. Who do you think first caused the failure? If you enjoyed this little story of me, please subscribe.